Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Dave Mantell. I'm a certified financial planner and managing partner with Stabler Wealth Management. And for today's webinar, we're going to cover a real critical topic, which is retiring from Boeing within the next 2 years. What should you be doing today? What key steps to take? And so in this presentation, we're going to hit on all the main items that you want to be focusing on this last 1 to 2 year sprint to get yourself retirement ready. I should note if you're joining and you said, hey, I'm maybe 3 years from retirement or within a year of retirement, this is still absolutely a great webinar for you. We'll be hitting on a lot of topics that still are applicable to you. And so even though the title is within 2 years, really, we should just say nearing retirement is really what the focus of this presentation will be. All right. So with that, I will pull up the presentation, share my screen, and we will jump into things here. Great. So here we go. So retiring from Boeing within 2 years, key steps to take now. A couple little bullets about us before we dive in. So here at Stabler Wealth Management, we are a team of certified financial planners. We are a fiduciary, and we specialize in working with Boeing employees and retirees. And our whole focus is providing personal advice to you, tailored to you and your family's needs and goals to help you drive better outcomes, both now and in retirement in the years ahead. For more information on different videos that we've done, on articles, go to our website. We have a quick page, planyourboeingretirement.com, that will take you right there to the relevant information. And that's where we'll keep all the latest and greatest as it pertains to Boeing professionals. So with that, we'll jump into the key slides. So you may ask, why do the final 2 years of retirement matter so much? What's so critical about those final 2 years versus the final 5 years or 10 years or the first 2 years for that matter? And it really boils down to a few key items. The first is at the end of your career, these are typically your peak higher earnings years. And that tends to also lead to your higher savings years. And so with that, as your wages are higher and you have more disposable income, you have more options and you could use the different tools in the toolkit more so with that extra cash flow that you have available. And so it really lines up where this is a great time to take advantage of all the benefits and techniques that are available. As your income's higher, your tax bill's higher, and typically your cash flow would be higher. Beyond that, once you go into retirement, so let's fast forward 2 years, you cannot contribute to a 401k or, do a lot of these different, key strategies that we're going to be going over in today's presentation. And so those final working years, that's the final window as well, where you can maximize and use all the benefits that are available. And so also, in addition to having the means and cash flow to contribute to such, the window closes for a lot of these strategies at the point of retirement. So this is a key time to take advantage of such. And then finally, retirement in our view doesn't start the day that you put in your notice or you get your last paycheck from Boeing. It's really those final 2 years beforehand when the more hands-on, roll up your sleeves retirement planning process starts. And so there is a list of items that you should be starting and focusing on today that pertains to your retirement that you do not want to wait until retirement for. One of the situations that pains us a lot is, we love helping everyone that we're fit to help and, have worked with, many, many Boeing professionals over the years. But it's always a little bit tougher when somebody comes to us and they said, hey, Dave Stabler, good news. We want to reach out, see how you guys can, how we could benefit from working with you, how you fit in. And by the way, I just retired last week. And so a lot of times it's a little bit of a forehead slap where if you're in that situation, you should absolutely come talk to us because the clock is ticking. But likewise, when someone comes to us and says, hey, I'm retiring in 2 years, 3 years, even 1 year, that gives us a lot more ammo that we can deal with. And so again, the retirement planning and the retirement success process does not start when you give your notice to Boeing. It really starts several years before and amps up in those final 2 years. Good. So now that we've framed the reason for the 2 year period, now we will get into, okay, I'm within 2 years of retirement. What do I need to do now? What are the steps to take? The first of which is maximizing those benefits while you can. So maximizing tax savings, various, benefits, tax deferral accounts, while those are an option for you. And so I'm going to go down the list of a few of our favorite, and we'll talk through those. And with that, I'll shine a bit more of a light on why this applies to Boeing professionals, how it applies the last couple of years, and where we really want to bring that in. Okay, so first off, mega backdoor Roth contributions. So the way this works, we have a great video on our website on this. It's also on YouTube that breaks it down in detail. But when you're working, you can max out your 401k, right? So before the age of 50, you could do 23,000. Once you're the age of 50, you could do another, 7,000 plus. I always get the 2024, 2025 numbers a bit mixed up, but long story short, once you're over 50, you could do, 31,000 into either a pre-tax 401k or a Roth 401k. Both of those you should absolutely be doing. First off, for non-union members, Boeing matches that, right? So that's free money, that 10% match. And so every dollar that you put in, as Boeing is matching it, it's almost like doubling your investment return immediately, right? Which is a hard thing to find. So first and foremost, that's a great starting point. By the way, recently added, if you're between the ages of 60 and 63, you could do a super catch up. So catch up, an additional catch up on top of that allows you to contribute even more. Here's what a lot of folks aren't really so aware of is beyond that initial 31,000, you can do another 30,000 or so, 25,000 plus into the after-tax contribution in your 401k. And so even after you max out your regular 401k, you can then add on to the after-tax component. And this is a bit nuanced. So first off, you say, hey, what's so great about this after-tax thing? Should I do it? Is it as good as a regular 401k pre-tax or a Roth? And so the answer is the after-tax by itself, if you don't take the right steps, is not so good. However, you can very easily then convert that after-tax contribution to Roth with no taxes on the contribution amount. And so that's why they call it the mega backdoor Roth, that key backdoor. And so for the folks that have the means to do so, we are big fans of a mega backdoor Roth. And so again, what that will look like is you'll max out your regular 401k, either pre-tax or Roth. We could discuss what's the best option for you. So it's 31,000. And then Boeing will do its contribution or match, depending if you're union or not. The numbers differ a bit. And then from there, you could contribute another 25,000 plus 30,000 into the after-tax 401k. And then you want to make sure that you convert that to Roth regularly. And that way, you're basically getting another 25, 30,000 into your Roth every year that can grow tax-free. So again, a needle mover, right? I think that's the best way to say it. If you have been doing after tax for many years and you haven't been doing the converting to Roth piece, you want to be really careful. If you call Boeing and say, hey, start converting my after tax to Roth, the gains on the after tax contributions to date that you have made will be taxed as ordinary income. We don't want that. And so really what you want to do is roll the after tax balance to an outside Roth IRA. And what will happen is your contributions will go into the Roth IRA. The gains over the years will go into your regular IRA tax deferred. I know it gets a little confusing. I would probably just say if you have after tax balance, take advantage of the slide where it says talk to us, contact us. You could do so on our website and we could map out exactly how to navigate that so you don't make a tax mistake because those are very common in that instance. Other items, HSA health savings account. These are small but mighty. You could contribute, including Boeing's contribution, approximately $9,000 per year into the health savings account. What you contribute is pre-tax, so it saves you taxes up front. You can invest it same way as your other investment accounts, and the growth is tax free as long as the balance is used for permitted eligible health expenses, which are pretty wide ranging. And so the way I like to think about this is this basically can cover your retirement health insurance. So a common strategy is contribute to the health savings account, invest it growth oriented, let it grow like a Roth. And then once you're 65, that might be a catalyst where you could start using it for Medicare premiums even. If you are new to the health savings account, still a great strategy. And as long as you're in a high deductible plan that's eligible, you could actually continue to contribute to your health savings account after retirement up until the age of 65. And so, again, a great tactic, and it's not too late. So, this is one of the few benefits that you could keep doing after retirement if the stars align. But nonetheless, a very, like I mentioned, small but mighty tool to be using. And we see it all the time for clients that we work with. This can fund essentially your retirement health insurance, which is pretty powerful. Beyond that, as you have excess cash flow, you max out your 401k, you do the mega backdoor Roth, you do the health savings account. We're not a huge fan of the SSP, the deferred comp. I could spend another 20 minutes going over that alone. But there are other tools. One is a regular backdoor Roth IRA. So even if you make too much money to do a normal Roth IRA contribution, $8,000 a year for each you and your spouse if you're married while you are working. Even if your income is beyond the threshold, you could do a regular backdoor Roth IRA, which is another mechanism to get money into the Roth each year. So if you're married, 8,000 times 2, 16,000, that's pretty neat, right? That's a great way to build up some more tax-free growth accounts. And, honestly, a normal brokerage account, a non-retirement account is a great flexible account. Yes, you don't get the any extra tax savings or benefits, but it's a great way where you can invest money. It's liquid, available, and you could access it to help fund your retirement expenses, retirement withdrawals, without it being taxed when it comes out. You only pay tax on the gains as realized and the dividends. And so, again, that's also a great tool. So, I kind of like the ordering of this. Some may argue the regular backdoor Roth's the best one to do because it's so flexible. But nonetheless, this is a great starting point for those final couple years to maximize the hierarchy and really make your savings work for you. Not only investment growth, but tax savings as well. All right, I couldn't help myself. I added one more bullet on here. Not really a maximizing a benefits thing, but big fan of reducing bad debt while you're working. It just feels better. You have cash flow. It's a great time to chop that down. You could see in parentheses bad debt. General rule of thumb, if your interest rate is over 5%, it's not good debt. Um, if it's under 5%, that's a pretty low mortgage rate. You could earn higher than that in really conservative investments. So it's nice having the flexibility. And so, yeah, so it's good to clean up your different loans, pay off credit cards, look at car loans, and to add to this, we get a lot of folks that are really saying, hey, when I retire, no debt. I am set on that. And I absolutely respect that. And I'm never going to try to convince someone to not pay off debt. On the flip side, I guess here I am trying to convince if you have one of those 3% or lower mortgage rates, so inexpensive, it's almost like an asset in a sense. And so generally, our preference is, hey, keep that cheap mortgage into retirement. That way you don't have to pay a bunch of tax to access money to pay it off sooner. And by the way, the money that you would be using to pay it off pretty easily can, earn over 3% very conservatively with that low mortgage rate. So bonus bullet on this slide. Okay, good. Okay, moving along here. I hit on it earlier. Retirement planning and retirement implementation does not start at retirement. It starts earlier. And with that, anybody on this call right now should be building out your retirement income plan right now. And so what's that look like? First is let's figure out what your spending is and what you want it to be and what that dream retirement is so we could back out on how to fund that. When I think of retirement spending, let's just take a step back. When I think of retirement income plans and how a successful retirement works, there's really three legs to the stool. I'm sorry if you've heard me say that before. But basically, the first leg is what do you need? What's coming out? What's your spending? What's your cash flow needs in retirement? From there, the next leg is what's your retirement income? This could be pension, social security, real estate income. And then the third leg is what's the delta between those? What are your spending needs that aren't covered by your recurring income? And then how do we cover that from your investment accounts? And so I don't care if you're a Fortune 500 company, a tech billionaire, a Boeing engineer, everybody should be doing a cash flow plan. It's just a good, prudent exercise to be doing. And so the first step of that is completing a spending worksheet. What's our normal spending now? How do we expect that to change in retirement? And then from that, we could build a really um, very pretty close representation of a retirement plan from that core good data going in. Um, with that, and by the way, we have a really nice, simple one-page double-sided spending sheet that you can leverage. So yeah, just ping us. Again, we'll show you how to get in touch with us and we'll provide a copy of that. On top of that, there's normal expenses and one-off big ticket expenses. Travel, gifts to kids, remodels, things like that. And so it's good to identify what that looks like too, so we could build that into your plan. Similar to spending or paying off debt, sometimes it feels good to earmark funds and identify how those will be paid for while you still have a paycheck. So that's another key one. And then once we have all this great spending data and we have your asset information, your investment account balances, your pension, your social security, we could run a real nice retirement plan for you and stress test that just to make sure it works under different environments, market situations, inflation situations. And so it really starts on, hey, what do you need? And then how do you support that with those other legs? Okay. So I always like the saying cash is king, cash flow is king, because that's really what drives things. From there, we think of with investing, you want to have tax flexibility because it's not only what you earn, it's what you keep that really matters. And I always like the analogy, again, sorry if you've heard this before, of the tax headlock, where basically this is really common at Boeing, where essentially there's not a lot of balance between the tax character of your different income streams. And whenever you need to access money, you're paying tax on it. And so when I say balancing, what that means is we like to have some pre-tax money, so tax deferred, think of it 401k, lump sum, if you have deferred comp, the SSP, Roth money, which is tax-free if accessed correctly, non-retirement accounts. I say after tax, that's a little confusing because I'm not talking about the after-tax 401k, but non-retirement accounts that you've already paid tax on. By having a balance of these different buckets, it allows you to keep your taxes very low in retirement and give you flexibility of accessing income and cash. And so I guess to paint a picture, this is really common. I'd almost say typical. Whereas we meet with Boeing professionals, they may say, hey, I'm looking to retire soon. I've done a great job saving. You know, I got my 401k, I got my lump sum. You know, I got $2 million saved. I have my pension, you know, lump sum on top of that. I am ready for retirement. And then as we peel back the layers of the onion, your 401k pre-tax is taxable when you access it. Your lump sum, if you take the lump sum pension option, is taxable when you access it. If you take the pension annuity, that's taxable. Social Security is taxable. And so every direction you look, whenever you're accessing cash flow in retirement, it's all taxed when you tap it. And what that means is we see it really, really common where once you are RMD age, so required minimum distributions in your 70s, um, you very well may likely have a higher income in those retirement years on your tax return than it is in your working years, which I know is a bit mind boggling. On the flip side, clients that have done a really nice job balancing these different buckets can keep their taxes really low in retirement. and keep more of what they earn. Um, I'll add on that too. Another scenario we see a lot is you want to help your kids with their down payment. You want to pull out $100,000. They have a career now. We know how expensive housing is. You want to get them off on the right foot. To access that 100,000, you have to pull it out of your 401k or IRA and pay tax on it. That may put you in a higher tax bracket, and you're paying 32% tax on that amount. And so that's kind of an example where having balance is key. And as I started on with some of those initial slides, those last couple of years is a great time to start adding balance. It's not too late. You may say, hey, what if I am already retired and you just described to me, all my money's in my 401k and pension or lump sum. Uh, it is not too late to do Roth conversions. In retirement's a great time, or even if you're working. And what that means is, as we went over the benefits page, we talked about contributing to a mega backdoor Roth, contributing to a Roth IRA. What a Roth conversion is moving some of your money from 401k, pre-tax, or IRA to Roth and paying tax when you do so. And so I talked about good debt, bad debt. Same thing. I think there's good tax brackets, bad tax brackets. I really think for most of the Boeing folks we work with, you're gonna be in the 22% tax bracket at least into retirement. That's historically a very low and reasonable interest rate or tax rate, excuse me. And so moving money from IRA to Roth IRA at 22% or 24%, even when you're working, I don't think's a bad deal in many cases. Similar to after-tax rollovers, this is really nuance. So please don't just get off this webinar and go convert a bunch of money to Roth. Let's talk about it, run a tax projection, not only now, but in the retirement years ahead, and determine if it's a good deal to do a conversion and how much, because it does trigger other taxes commonly. But this could be a good move and really right size your tax balance, not only in the early retirement years, but also in your later working years. And by the way, when we say taxes, once you retire, your taxable income and really your gross income on your tax return also impacts your health insurance premiums. Once you're Medicare age, it's called IRMA. As your income's higher, you have to pay more in Medicare. And if you do not have Boeing early retirement medical and you have to do private insurance through the exchanges, in pre-65 retirement years, it could really ding, having higher income can really ding your health insurance premiums. Could be another 10,000 or more a year, right? Depending on how you manage it. So anyways, it's not just your tax rate, it's also health insurance tax-driven health insurance costs that we need to be mindful of. Good. Let's see. So, so far we've gone over the different benefits available, how to, fund those, tax strategies. In addition to that, we've looked at, how to game plan for retirement, get retirement ready. Let's cut to the chase here. When you worked at Boeing for many decades, as I'm sure most of you have, the pension is such a key piece of your financial picture. And so it is really important to make the right pension decision. For anybody retiring within 2 years, you should have a pretty good idea of whether you're going to take the lump sum or the annuity. And so, sometimes some of you may be on the fence, but I do think it's typically not something when you're filling out the pension form you want to be like, oh, maybe I'll choose this one or check this box, right? You want to do a lot of thought into that. So, I definitely recommend we run the numbers. And so, with that, you want to understand the pros versus cons, the trade-off of the annuity versus a lump sum. And in your own situation, not only based on your pension numbers, but also your family situation, which one's the right fit for you? The survivorship on the annuity, unless you choose a 10-year certain, which we're typically isn't our go-to, can only continue for you and your spouse, right? If you're single and it's really important to leave assets or legacy to your children, you may be like, hey, I need to do the lump sum. If I step off a curb tomorrow, I want to make sure something goes to my family from that. Likewise, depending on if you're SPIA, management, non-union, the math is very different on the lump sum versus annuity figures. Typically, the lump sum is juicier for SPIA, for the BSERP versus PVP. So it's really important to run the numbers. And then, similar to coming up with a spending plan, we also want to have a pension plan we could work off of. With that being said, if you have decided that you're going to take the lump sum, um, one, the timing of your commencement does matter. We've done a lot of different articles and webinars on this. You could check out our website if you want to learn more. But there's this concept called segment rates, which is basically IRS published what you can earn on quality bond funds, what interest rate based in the current environment, both in the short term, medium, and long term. And those segment rates drives what your lump sum calculation is. Because Boeing's saying, here's what your annuity is. Here's based on your age, your mortality, how long you're expected to live. And then here's how much we'd expect you to earn on your lump sum. So we need to give you this amount of lump sum so your earnings would match what the annuity is. The whole flaw here is that the segment rates are based on today's landscape, not tomorrow's, not yesterday's. And so, for example, during COVID, when interest rates went way, way down, the lump sum shot up like a rocket, through the roof because it was based on the current landscape. Of course, we weren't going to have 0% interest rates forever, right? And we've seen since seen that adjust dramatically. And so there is value we'll see time to time based on where interest rates are. One challenge is we're not going to know the November segment rates until probably January. So if you're saying, hey, I'm going to retire this year and I'm trying to decide, do I commence my lump sum in December based on last year's segment rates or January based on this year's? You won't know for certain when you make that decision. However, we'll have a pretty good estimate come mid-October, let's call it, where segment rates are based on the trend of other interest rates and variables. So we can absolutely kind of run some estimates for you and look at that ahead of you making that final timing decision to make sure we know exactly what's the best value. Because, with the Fed, recently cutting interest rates, that's impacted interest rates, right? And so that in many cases could change your lump sum by tens of thousands of dollars. So that is good to know. Finally, another driving reason why it's good to know if you're going to do the lump sum or annuity, irrespective of timing, is that the lump sum's coming in cash, right? Stock market goes up a lot between now and retirement. Maybe that influences segment rates, but your lump sum isn't growing with the market. Likewise, if the stock market crashed, your lump sum isn't changing, in that regard unless segment rates change, right? But nonetheless, we want to build that into your investment. So I hope that helps kind of lay the table. But again, good to have an idea of if you're leaning towards annuity or lump sum. From there, it's good to have a timing on your retirement so we can decide when to commence your pension. Because remember, you have to commence your pension after you retire from Boeing, but you don't have to do it right away. You could delay it, a month, a couple months. And then lastly, that's all going to tie to how you should be investing your other accounts when we account for that big chunk of money or not big chunk of money if you do the annuity, right? So some key information there. Good. Um, I want to spend a little time on health insurance in retirement. Just hit into the main bullets here. If you were last hired before 2007 to Boeing full time, you likely will have early retirement medical insurance, which is a pretty sweet deal. Keeps really affordable medical insurance into retirement up until age 65. On top of that, that also allows you to qualify for the Boeing Medicare Advantage plan, which is a newer deal. And we've heard really good feedback on it from clients so far. I know a lot of times when people hear Medicare Advantage, they're, feelers go up a little bit, but so far so good. And so that also allows you to access that. If you were not last hired before 2007, more likely than not, we're going to have to fend for ourselves for health insurance, which means a combination of COBRA, the private marketplace, Washington Health Plan Finder if you're in Washington, getting on your spouse's coverage if she's still working. So we got to get a bit more creative. By the way, that's not a reason not to retire, but it is key to know where you stand. Because I've seen estimates, right? Having Boeing early retirement medical could be worth, one, $200,000 depending on what age you retire. And so that's a big chunk of change. And if you do not have the Boeing early retirement medical coverage, we want to be really thoughtful on how to manage your taxable income in your retirement years so you don't get hammered with health insurance premiums. So whether you were last hired before 2007 or after, we'd recommend confirming that you do qualify or don't with HR because it's a real key component. And so anyways, yep, this is on our checklist for retirement, but it's good to verify that because that's going to dictate your retirement readiness as well as some taxable strategies that we want to be doing. Okay. Yeah, wonderful. One quick little special SPIA consideration. I know for most of you that are non-SPIA, even if you were SPIA before, this may not be an option or that convenient. But if you retire as SPIA, it's a lot better than retiring as management typically. And there's two reasons for that. One, the BSER pension calculation will be increased based on your more recent higher earning years. So that could be a pretty sizable bump. Um, yeah, I don't want to get too detailed here, but basically, otherwise it was frozen, I understand, in 2018. So if you retire as SPIA, that's another 7+ years, right, of salary earnings growth that will adjust your pension up. So that's one item. And then also, yeah, the SPIA retirement, early retirement medical is a little bit of a better plan, but it's also much, much cheaper. So it's a good deal. And so, recently I've had this conversation come up a couple times. But yeah, the math does work out if possible, if you were SPIA to kind of get back and retire as SPIA. Good. So when we pull this all together, I hope I painted a good picture on why these final few years is such a critical window. And there's a lot of actions you can do that's going to really set you up so much better for retirement. And so, as a next step, I'll go over a retirement checklist in a moment. But yeah, I think it's a great time to dive in, roll up the sleeves on that retirement plan. And with that, run a retirement trial run. Um, and so there's a couple of different ways to go about that. One, ping us. You could email us at team@stablerwm.com, and you could get a copy of our Boeing personal retirement checklist. Goes through a lot of the steps we covered today in a nice, easy to follow format. And so no cost, happy to provide that to you. Just ping our office there. Beyond that, as I mentioned, it's really common when people retire that they start working with a financial planner. And I get it. Like the stakes are higher. You don't have a paycheck coming in. You don't want to go back to work. You don't want to make any mistakes. And also, you do need to make a lot of adjustments. It's a lot different taking money out versus putting money in. And so with that, yeah, we do offer a free second opinion on your retirement plan. You can go to our website, set up a time for a 1-hour complimentary financial checkup review. And in that meeting, we'll go over questions that you have, do a deep dive. And then if you're interested in possibly working with us, we'll do that retirement trial run together and give you our findings and suggestions and recommendations on if we work together, here's what we would be doing, which is very helpful. And so, yeah, again, this is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll make retiring. And then that decision continues in doing it the right way. And so, I'm a bit biased, but yeah, I really highly recommend you do reach out to us on this. We're doing these retirement reviews every week, by the way. And so the best way to do that is go to planyourboeingretirement.com, click on that Let's Talk button, and you could schedule a session with me where I'll get to know a little bit more about you. We'll start with half an hour, and then we'll set up that 1-hour deep dive. And from there, if you're interested, we could kind of go through how we would plug into the process and add value and do that retirement trial run. We're here to help and with wherever we can plug in with your needs. And so take us up on all those offers we made. If you want our retirement checklist, if you want our spending sheet, if you want to set up a time with us to review your picture, we're here to help wherever you can. So looking forward to hearing back from many of you. Thanks again for tuning in.